The world tilted sideways and Gabrielle Morrison's knees hit the kitchen floor with a crack that echoed through the tiny apartment. Her vision blurred, dark spots dancing across the peeling linoleum as her daughter's voices seemed to come from underwater. The fever had been climbing for days, maybe weeks. She'd lost track. All she knew was that her body had finally given up. "Mama? Mama, wake up." 6-year-old Amara shook her shoulder, her small hands surprisingly strong. Her twin sister, Aisha, stood frozen by the refrigerator, eyes wide with terror. Gabrielle tried to speak, to tell them she was okay, that everything would be fine like she always did. But her tongue felt thick and useless. The room spun faster. She could feel herself sliding away, consciousness slipping through her fingers like water. "We have to get help." Amara grabbed Aisha's hand. "Come on." The twins ran. Out the apartment door, down the 3 flights of stairs, their footsteps pounding against concrete. They burst through the building's front entrance into the bright October morning, looking desperately for anyone who could help their mama. Across the parking lot, a tall man in jeans and a blue t-shirt bent over the open hood of a sleek black car. Tools lay scattered on a cloth beside him. His dark hair caught the sunlight as he worked, completely absorbed in whatever engine problem he was solving. "Please, please help us." Amara screamed, dragging Aisha toward him. "Our mama won't wake up. She fell down and she won't wake up." Julian Torres straightened instantly, his hand still holding a wrench. He saw 2 little girls running toward him, tears streaming down their brown faces, terror in their eyes. Everything else disappeared. The conference call he was supposed to join in 10 minutes, the engine trouble that had made him pull over, the fact that he was already late. None of it mattered. "Show me," he said, dropping the wrench and running with them. The girls led him up the stairs, their small legs moving as fast as they could. Julian took the steps 3 at a time. They reached apartment 3C, door still hanging open. Inside, a young woman lay motionless on the kitchen floor, her dark skin pale and covered in sweat. She wore faded scrubs with a coffee stain down the front. Her breathing was shallow, rapid. Julian knelt beside her, checking her pulse. Fast and weak. Her skin burned under his fingers. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911. "I need an ambulance." Woman in her late 20s, unconscious, high fever, pulse rapid and thready. He rattled off the address while gently turning Gabrielle onto her side. "She's breathing but unresponsive." "Yes, I'll stay on the line." Amara clutched Aisha, both girls sobbing now. Julian looked at them, his heart breaking. They looked terrified, alone. Their clothes were clean but worn thin. The apartment was neat but nearly bare. A box of cereal sat on the counter next to a few cans of soup. The refrigerator hummed loudly, probably on its last legs. "What's your mama's name?" Julian asked gently. "Gabrielle," Amara whispered. "Gabrielle Morrison. Is she going to die?" "Our daddy died and now is mama going to die too?" "No," Julian said firmly. "The ambulance is coming. Your mama is going to be okay." He prayed he wasn't lying. The paramedics arrived 6 minutes later. Julian gave them all the information he had while they loaded Gabrielle onto a stretcher. She stirred slightly, mumbling something incoherent. "Are you family?" one paramedic asked. "No, but I'm staying with them. These girls need someone." Julian looked at Amara and Aisha. "Do you have anyone else? Grandparents? Aunts? Uncles?" Both girls shook their heads. "Just Mama," Aisha said, speaking for the first time. "Daddy's gone. Mama says we don't have nobody else." Julian made a decision in that moment that would change everything. "I'm coming to the hospital with you. Girls, grab whatever you need for a few hours. Quickly." They ran to their small bedroom and returned with a backpack and a stuffed rabbit. Julian noticed they didn't grab tablets or phones. Because they probably didn't have any. At the hospital, Julian sat with the twins in the emergency room waiting area. He called his assistant, Margaret, explaining the situation. "I need you to reschedule everything today. Now I don't know how long. Just handle it." He bought the girls juice and crackers from the vending machine. They ate like they hadn't seen food in days. That observation made his stomach turn. 2 hours passed before a doctor emerged. "Family of Gabrielle Morrison?" Julian stood. "I'm the only one here for her. How is she?" The doctor looked at the girls, then at Julian, clearly confused about the relationship. "She has severe pneumonia and significant anemia. Her blood work shows signs of malnutrition." "How long has she been sick?" "I don't know. I just found her this morning." "Well, she's lucky you did. Another day and we'd be looking at organ failure. She's stable now, on 4 antibiotics and fluids." But she's going to need significant recovery time and follow-up care. Do you know if she has insurance? Julian saw the worry flash across Amara's face. The girl was 6 years old and already knew what that question meant. Already knew the answer would be bad. I'll handle all the costs, Julian said. Whatever she needs. Best care available. The doctor's eyebrows rose, but he nodded. She's asking for her daughters. You can see her, but just for a few minutes. She needs rest. Gabrielle looked impossibly small in the hospital bed. IVs ran from both arms. Her eyes were still glassy with fever, but she was awake. When she saw her girls, tears spilled down her cheeks. Babies. Oh, my babies. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you were scared. Amara and Aisha climbed carefully onto the bed, hugging their mother. Julian stood back, giving them space. But Gabrielle looked at him over her daughters' heads. You brought them, she said, her voice hoarse. Thank you. I don't even know your name. Julian Torres. And you don't need to thank me. The hospital. The bills. Her eyes filled with panic. I can't pay for this. I don't have insurance. I work 3 jobs, but none of them offer benefits, and I can't afford the marketplace plans, and the girls need to eat, and I just... Stop, Julian said gently. It's handled. All of it. You focus on getting better. I can't let you do that. I can't accept that kind of money from a stranger. Julian pulled a chair close to the bed. You can and you will. Your daughters need their mother healthy. That's all that matters right now. We'll figure out everything else later. Have you ever been so desperate that accepting help from a stranger felt like your only choice? What would you do in Gabrielle's position? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to see how this story unfolds. Gabrielle looked at her daughters, then back at Julian. Every instinct told her to refuse, to maintain her pride, to insist she could handle it alone like she always had. But looking at Amara and Aisha's scared faces, she knew the truth. She couldn't handle this alone. Not anymore. Okay, she whispered. Thank you. Thank you so much. Julian nodded. Rest now. I'll stay with the girls. As Gabrielle drifted back to sleep, Julian led the twins to the waiting room. His phone buzzed constantly with messages about missed meetings and canceled appointments. He ignored them all. Something bigger was happening here. Something that mattered more than any business deal. He looked at these 2 little girls who'd run to a stranger for help, who'd trusted him to save their mother. And he'd made them a promise. He intended to keep it. Whatever it took. The hospital kept Gabrielle for 3 days. Julian visited every morning and evening, bringing the twins with him. During the days, his assistant Margaret watched them at his office downtown. She'd raised 4 kids of her own and took to Amara and Aisha immediately, keeping them entertained with coloring books and stories. On the 2nd day, Julian sat beside Gabrielle's bed while the twins napped on the small couch by the window. She looked better. The color was returning to her face, and the fever had finally broken. But her eyes held a sadness that went deeper than physical illness. Tell me what happened, Julian said quietly. How did you get here? Gabrielle looked at her sleeping daughters. My husband, Terrence, died 2 years ago. Construction accident. Scaffolding collapse. The company said it was his fault, that he hadn't followed safety protocols. They fought the claim. We got nothing. No life insurance, no settlement, nothing. I'm sorry. I had a good job before, administrative work at a law firm. But I couldn't afford childcare for 2 kids on 1 salary. I tried to make it work, but I kept missing days when they got sick. Eventually they let me go. Said I wasn't reliable. Julian felt anger rise in his chest. So you started working multiple jobs. Gas station overnight shift for nights a week. Cleaning offices on the weekends. Waitressing whenever I could fit it in. The girls are in school during the day, so I sleep then when I can. Or I did until I got sick. How long have you been sick? Gabrielle looked away. A month maybe. It started as a cold. But I couldn't afford to miss work or see a doctor. I just kept pushing through. And then I wasn't eating much. The girls needed food more than I did. You were starving yourself to feed your children. I was doing what any mother would do. Julian shook his head. Gabrielle, you almost died. If the twins hadn't found me, if I'd been 5 minutes later leaving that parking lot. But you weren't. She met his eyes. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. Why are you paying for all of this? Julian was quiet for a moment. 3 years ago my wife died. Car accident. I was left alone with our daughter, Sophia. She's 7 now. 4 months after, I felt like I was drowning. I had money, resources, help. And I still barely made it through. I can't imagine doing it alone with nothing, working 3 jobs trying to survive. When those little girls ran up to me crying, all I could think was that could have been Sophia. That could have been me if I didn't have everything I have. Gabrielle's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry about your wife. And I'm sorry about your husband. But we're both still here. And we both have daughters who need us. So let me help. Not because you need charity, but because no one should have to go through what you've been through alone. The doctor came in that afternoon with test results. Besides the pneumonia and anemia, Gabrielle had lost dangerous amounts of weight. Her body had been running on empty for months. She needed at least 6 weeks of rest and proper nutrition before she could even think about working again. 6 weeks. Gabrielle's voice rose in panic. I can't take 6 weeks off. I'll lose all my jobs. We'll lose the apartment. We'll end up on the street. Julian stood. No, you won't. Here's what's going to happen. My property has a guest house. 3 bedrooms, fully furnished. You and the girls will stay there while you recover. I'll arrange for a doctor to check on you daily. The kitchen will be stocked with whatever you need. And when you're healthy enough, we'll figure out what comes next. Julian, I can't. That's too much. You can and you will. Think of your daughters, Gabrielle. Think of what they've been through. They need stability. They need to know their mother will be okay. Gabrielle looked at Amara and Aisha, still sleeping peacefully. They looked so small, so vulnerable. She thought about the apartment with its broken heater and thin walls. She thought about the nights she'd lie awake worrying about how to pay for food, how to keep them safe, how to give them anything close to a normal childhood. I'll pay you back, she said finally. Every penny. I don't know how long it'll take, but I'll pay you back. We'll talk about that later. Right now, focus on getting well. On the 3rd day, Gabrielle was discharged. Julian picked them up in a different car, a large SUV with car seats already installed in the back. The twins climbed in excitedly, amazed by the leather seats and the screen that played movies. The drive took 30 minutes, leaving the city behind for rolling hills and open space. Amara and Aisha pressed their faces to the windows, pointing at horses and distant fields and houses bigger than any building in their neighborhood. Julian's property sat behind tall hedges and an automatic gate. The main house was beautiful but not ostentatious, a modern design with lots of windows and clean lines. The guest house sat 50 yards away, connected by a stone pathway through gardens just starting to show autumn colors. This is where we're staying? Aisha whispered. For as long as you need, Julian said. The guest house was bigger than any place Gabrielle had ever lived. The kitchen had new appliances and granite counters. The living room had comfortable furniture and a large TV. The bedrooms had real beds with thick mattresses and soft blankets. Amara and Aisha ran through every room, their laughter echoing off the walls. There's food in the kitchen, Julian said. My housekeeper Rosa stocked everything. If you need anything else, just let her know. She comes by the main house every day. She's excited to meet you all properly. Gabrielle stood in the middle of the living room, overwhelmed. Julian, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just rest. Get better. Let your daughters be kids for a while. That night, after Julian left, Gabrielle made dinner for the first time in months without worrying about how much everything cost. Real chicken, fresh vegetables, milk for the girls. They sat at the table together and Amara said, Mama, is this real? Are we really going to stay here? For a little while, baby. I like Mr. Julian, Aisha said. He's nice. And he has kind eyes. Gabrielle thought about that. Kind eyes. Yes, that was exactly right. Julian Torres had kind eyes. And he'd saved their lives without asking for anything in return. She didn't understand it, couldn't quite believe it was real. But sitting in this warm house with her daughters, with full plates in front of them and safety surrounding them, she let herself feel something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. The first week in the guest house felt like a dream Gabrielle was afraid to wake from. Dr. Patricia Reeves came every morning to check her vitals, adjust her medications, and ensure she was following the recovery plan. The doctor was a warm woman in her 50s who made house calls as a favor to Julian. Your blood work is improving, Dr. Reeves said on day 5, reviewing results on her tablet. The antibiotics are working and your red blood cell count is coming up. But you're still severely underweight. I need you to eat 3 full meals a day plus snacks. Your body has been in starvation mode. We need to reverse that. I'm eating, Gabrielle said. More than I have in months. Good. Keep it up. And rest. I know you're used to pushing through, but your body needs time to heal. After the doctor left, Gabrielle sat on the back porch with coffee, watching Amara and Aisha play in the yard. They looked different already. Less anxious, more like regular kids. They'd found a rope swing on an old oak tree and were taking turns, their laughter carrying on the autumn breeze. A voice called from the path. "Hello? Mrs. Morrison?" A little girl appeared, maybe 7 years old, with long dark hair in 2 braids. She wore a red dress and white sneakers. Behind her, Julian approached with an apologetic smile. "I hope we're not intruding," he said. "Sophia has been asking about the twins all week. She saw them playing from the house." "Can I play with them?" Sophia asked, bouncing on her toes. "Please? I don't have anyone to play with usually." "Of course," Gabrielle said. "Girls, come meet Sophia." The 3 children circled each other for about 30 seconds before Sophia grabbed their hands and pulled them toward the swing. Within minutes, they were racing around the yard like they'd known each other forever. Julian sat in the chair beside Gabrielle. "How are you feeling?" "Really? Tired still. But better. The doctor says I'm improving." "That's good. I'm glad." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the girls play. Julian had visited every day, sometimes just for a few minutes, sometimes staying for an hour. He always brought something small. Fresh flowers, books for the twins, a soft blanket. Never anything too extravagant but thoughtful. "Why don't you have people?" Julian asked. "Family, I mean." The twins said, "You don't have anyone." Gabrielle sighed. "My parents died in a fire when I was 19. House fire, electrical problem. I was at college, came home to nothing. No siblings. My husband's family blamed me when he died. Said I pushed him to work too much, to take dangerous jobs. They cut contact." "That's horrible." "It is what it is. I learned to manage on my own." "You shouldn't have to." Gabrielle looked at him. "Why are you really doing this, Julian? And please don't just say it's because you're a nice person. People aren't this nice without a reason." Julian watched Sophia chase Amara and Aisha around the yard. "When my wife died, I shut down. Completely. I worked constantly, threw myself into the business, barely saw Sophia. My mother finally staged an intervention, told me I was losing my daughter while she was still alive. That woke me up. I realized I'd been so focused on my pain that I forgot Sophia was grieving too. She'd lost her mother and was losing her father. What changed? I started being present. Really present. Taking her to school, having dinner together, reading bedtime stories. The simple things. And I remembered what it felt like to be human again, not just a machine that worked and slept." He turned to Gabrielle. "When I saw your girls running to me, terrified their mother was dying, something clicked. I could help. I had the resources to make a real difference in someone's life. Why wouldn't I? Most people wouldn't. Then most people are missing the point of having resources. Money is just a tool. It should build things, fix things, help people. Otherwise, what's it for?" Gabrielle felt something warm spread through her chest. This man confused her. In her experience, wealthy people didn't think like this. They didn't see regular people as equals deserving help. But Julian seemed genuinely baffled by the idea that his actions were unusual. "The girls seem happy," she said, nodding toward the yard where all 3 children were now building something with sticks and leaves. "Sophia's been lonely," Julian admitted. "We moved here 6 months ago. She goes to private school but hasn't really connected with the other kids. They're all different. Too focused on designer clothes and expensive toys. Sophia just wants friends who like playing outside and making up games. She's welcome to come over anytime. The twins would love that." "Thank you." So would Sophia. Rosa, the housekeeper, appeared with a tray of sandwiches and fruit. She was a round woman with silver hair and a smile that crinkled her whole face. "Lunch for the children," she announced in accented English. "And for you both. You need to eat, Mrs. Morrison. You are too thin. Please call me Gabrielle." "Gabrielle then. You eat. I will get the children." As they ate, Julian brought up something he'd been thinking about. "When you're fully recovered, you'll need work. You can't go back to those 3 jobs. That's not sustainable. I don't have many options." "Actually, you do. I need someone to manage my household staff. Rosa, the groundskeeper, the part-time chef. Right now, I'm doing it myself and honestly, I'm terrible at it. I forget to order supplies, miss scheduling conflicts, lose track of maintenance needs. I need someone organized, responsible, good with people." Gabrielle set down her sandwich. "You're offering me a job. A real job. Salary, benefits, health insurance. You'd have normal hours, weekends off, paid vacation. And you'd still live in the guest house, so no commute, no childcare issues. The twins could play with Sophia after school." "Julian, before you say no, think about it. You have skills. You managed an entire law office before. This is basically the same thing just for a household instead of a business. You'd be perfect for it. Gabrielle's mind raced. A real job. Benefits. Stability. Her daughter's safe and happy. Sounded too good to be true. Which usually meant it was. What's the catch? She asked. No catch. I need help. You need a job. It's a practical solution that benefits both of us. People will talk. They'll say I'm taking advantage of you. Julian shrugged. Let them talk. I don't care what people think. Do you want the job or not? Gabrielle looked at her daughters playing with Sophia. Looked at this beautiful property, this safe space, this chance at a real life again. Every instinct from the past 2 years screamed that this couldn't last, that something would go wrong, that she should protect herself. But she was tired of just surviving. Maybe it was time to take a chance on actually living. Yes, she said. I want the job. Julian smiled. Good. We'll work out all the details when you're feeling stronger. For now, just focus on recovery. That night, after the children were in bed, Gabrielle stood at her bedroom window looking at the main house. Lights glowed in the windows. She could see Julian's silhouette moving past one window, probably tucking Sophia into bed. This man had appeared in her life at the worst possible moment and caught her before she fell. She didn't understand it yet. Didn't fully trust it. But for the first time in 2 years she felt like maybe, just maybe, everything might actually be okay. 2 weeks into her recovery, Gabrielle felt almost human again. The constant exhaustion had lifted. Her appetite returned. The cough that had plagued her for months finally disappeared. Dr. Reeves reduced the visits to twice weekly and pronounced her on the right track. Another month and you should be fully recovered, the doctor said. Your body needed this rest more than you knew. Gabrielle started joining the girls for walks around the property. The grounds were beautiful, carefully maintained by a quiet man named Thomas who'd worked for Julian's family for 20 years. He showed Amara and Aisha his greenhouse full of plants and let them help water the flowers. Julian visited every day, usually in the evenings after work. Sometimes he brought Sophia. Sometimes he came alone. They'd sit on the porch and talk about everything and nothing. He told her about his company, a tech firm that developed software for hospitals. She told him about her dreams before life got so hard, how she'd wanted to be a teacher once. You still could, Julian said. It's not too late. I'm 32 with 2 kids and no degree. That ship has sailed. Ships can turn around. Sophia and the twins became inseparable. They played together every afternoon, creating elaborate games that involved the entire property. They built a fort in the old oak tree, started a rock collection, and put on performances they made Julian and Gabrielle watch. Normal kid stuff. The kind of childhood the twins had never really had. One evening Julian arrived looking stressed. His tie was loose, his hair disheveled. He dropped into the porch chair with a heavy sigh. Bad day. Gabrielle asked. Board meeting. We're trying to close a major contract but there are complications. Nothing I can't handle, just exhausting. Want to talk about it? He looked surprised. Would you want to hear about corporate negotiations? Try me. So he did. He explained the situation, the competing interests, the technical challenges. Gabrielle listened carefully, asked questions that showed she understood the complexity. At one point she suggested an approach he hadn't considered, a way to reframe the problem that might break the deadlock. Julian stared at her. That's brilliant. Why didn't my expensive consultants think of that? Sometimes you're too close to a problem to see the simple solution. You should be in business. I managed a law office for 4 years. I'm not completely useless. I never thought you were useless, Gabrielle. His voice was serious. I think you're incredibly capable. You survived things that would have broken most people. She looked away, uncomfortable with the praise. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. You chose to keep fighting for your daughters. That takes strength. The next week, Gabrielle started shadowing Rosa to learn the household routine. The housekeeper had worked for Julian for 5 years and ran things efficiently. She showed Gabrielle the systems for ordering supplies, scheduling maintenance, coordinating the other staff. Mr. Julian, he is good man but very disorganized about the house, Rosa explained. He forgets when things need to be done. Last month, the air conditioning broke because no one remembered the service appointment. Before that, we ran out of propane for the grill during a dinner party. He needs someone to keep track. I can do that, Gabrielle said, already making mental notes. I know you can. I see how you are with your girls. Very organized, very responsible. You will be good at this job. Julian's mother visited on a Saturday. Helen Torres was an elegant woman in her 60s, with silver hair styled perfectly and kind eyes that reminded Gabrielle of Julian's. She arrived in a blue sedan and immediately asked to meet the children. Sophia ran to her grandmother with a hug. "Abuela, come see the fort we built." Amara and Aisha hung back shyly until Sophia grabbed their hands. "This is my abuela. She's the best." "Abuela, these are my friends Amara and Aisha." Helen bent down to their level. "It's wonderful to meet you both. Sophia talks about you constantly. Will you show me this famous fort?" The girls dragged her off toward the oak tree. Julian and Gabrielle watched from the porch. "Your mother seems lovely," Gabrielle said. "She is. And she's not subtle. She wanted to meet you." "Me? Why?" "Because I told her about you. About what happened. And she wants to make sure I'm not being an idiot." He grinned. "Her words, not mine." Later, while the children played, Helen sat with Gabrielle over tea. "My son told me what you've been through. I'm so sorry. No one should have to face that alone. I managed. More than managed from what I hear. You worked 3 jobs, kept your daughters safe and healthy, never asked for help even when you were dying. That's not managing. That's heroic." Gabrielle shifted uncomfortably. "I just did what I had to do. And Julian did what he had to do when he helped you. That's what good people do. They help when they can." Helen set down her teacup. "My son has been lonely for a long time. After his wife died, he threw himself into work, into being a father. He forgot how to be a person. But lately he smiles more, laughs more. He tells me about his day, about conversations, about ideas. I haven't seen him this engaged with life in 3 years. I'm glad he's doing better. It's because of you. And your daughters. You've reminded him that life is about more than just surviving. It's about connection, about caring for others, about being present." "I think that goes both ways," Gabrielle admitted. "He saved my life. Literally and figuratively." Helen smiled. "Then you saved each other. That's how it should work." That evening, after Helen left, Julian stayed for dinner. Gabrielle cooked pasta with vegetables, and the 4 children ate together at the kitchen table, talking over each other in their excitement to share the day's adventures. Julian helped clean up while Gabrielle put the twins to bed. When she came back downstairs, she found him loading the dishwasher with an expression of intense concentration. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I want to. Besides, I'm trying to be less useless around the house." She laughed. "You're not useless. You're a CEO. You run a company. I can negotiate a $50 million contract, but I can't remember to order paper towels. Priorities, right?" They finished the dishes together, working in comfortable silence. Gabrielle was acutely aware of his presence, the way he moved, the sound of his breathing. She'd been so focused on survival for so long that she'd forgotten what it felt like to simply enjoy someone's company. "Thank you for today," Julian said as he prepared to leave. "For dinner, for letting my mother interrogate you, for everything. You don't have to thank me. You've done so much more. I don't think of it as keeping score. I think we're just helping each other." After he left, Gabrielle sat on the porch alone. The night was cool, stars visible in the clear sky. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hooted. She thought about Helen's words about how they'd saved each other. Maybe it was true. Maybe that's what people were supposed to do. Save each other, one small kindness at a time. She wasn't sure what was happening between her and Julian. But whatever it was, it felt like hope. And hope was something she hadn't felt in a very long time. 4 weeks after collapsing in her kitchen, Gabrielle officially started work. Her first day began at 9 in the morning, a luxury after years of overnight shifts. She wore new clothes Julian had insisted on buying, professional but comfortable. Navy pants, a green blouse. She felt almost like her old self again. Rosa spent the morning training her on the computer systems. Julian had everything organized digitally, or tried to. The reality was a mess of spreadsheets, reminders, and notes that never seemed to connect to each other. "See," Rosa said, gesturing at the screen. "He tries very hard. But it needs one person to manage it all, to see the big picture." Gabrielle studied the systems for an hour, then started reorganizing. By lunch, she created a master calendar that synced all the household needs, automated reminders for routine maintenance, and set up a proper inventory system for supplies. Rosa looked at the new setup with wide eyes. "You did this in one morning? I used to manage 3 attorneys and all their cases, court dates, and client meetings. This is actually simpler." Thomas, the groundskeeper, stopped by to introduce himself properly. He was a man of few words but genuine warmth. "It's good to have someone in charge again. Mr. Julian, he means well but he forgets things. Last month, I had to replant the entire rose garden because no one ordered the fertilizer on time. That won't happen again, Gabrielle promised. The part-time chef, a young woman named Claire, came by in the afternoon. She cooked 3 evenings a week for Julian and Sophia. I never know what groceries are available, she complained. Sometimes I plan a menu and we're missing key ingredients. It makes my job really hard. Gabrielle added her to the system, set up a shared menu planning calendar, and created an automated grocery order that synced with Claire's menus. Try this and let me know if it helps. By the end of the first week, Gabrielle had the household running smoothly. Julian noticed immediately. How did you fix the coffee maker? He asked Friday evening. I called the company Thomas recommended. They came out yesterday. But I've been trying to get them to come for 3 weeks. I know. I read your emails. You kept forgetting to follow up. I handled it. He laughed. You're making me look bad. I'm making your life easier. That's what you hired me for. The twins thrived with the new routine. They attended a good public school within walking distance, made friends, joined after-school activities. Amara started taking art classes. Aisha joined a soccer team. They were just normal kids now without the weight of worry they'd carried for so long. Every afternoon Sophia came over after school. The 3 girls did homework together then played until dinner. Julian often stayed, eating with them, helping with math problems, listening to their stories about the day. One evening Aisha asked, Mr. Julian, why don't you have a wife anymore? Aisha, Gabrielle said sharply. That's not polite. It's okay, Julian said. He knelt to Aisha's level. My wife died a few years ago. I miss her a lot. But I still have Sophia, and that makes me happy. Our daddy died too, Amara said. We miss him every day. I bet you do. That's okay. It's okay to miss people we love. Sophia hugged her father. But we're not alone anymore. We have each other now. The simple statement hung in the air. We have each other now. It was true in a way that surprised Gabrielle. Over the past month they'd become something like a family. Not replacing what was lost but building something new. Julian caught her eye over the children's heads. Something passed between them, an understanding that couldn't be put into words. The staff Christmas party was in December. Julian's company threw an elaborate event for all employees and household staff. Gabrielle hadn't planned to attend, but Rosa insisted. You work for him now. You should go. Besides, it will be fun. I don't have anything to wear to something like that. Rosa smiled mysteriously. Check your closet. Gabrielle found a beautiful red dress hanging in her bedroom, along with a note from Helen. Every woman needs a dress that makes her feel special. Enjoy the party. Helen. The party was held at a hotel ballroom downtown. Gabrielle rode with Julian and Sophia, feeling nervous and out of place. The dress fit perfectly, but she couldn't remember the last time she'd been to something like this. You look beautiful, Julian said when she emerged. He wore a dark suit and looked impossibly handsome. The party was bigger than she expected, at least 200 people. Julian introduced her to everyone as his household manager, and people were gracious and friendly. She met other employees, their families, Julian's business partners. His business partner, Richard Chin, was particularly interested in talking to her. Julian says you've completely revolutionized how his household runs. I tried to get him to hire someone for years. He just needed the right person, Gabrielle said. Maybe you could work that magic on our office systems too. Julian's brilliant at strategy but terrible at organization. I heard that, Julian said, appearing with drinks. They laughed, and Richard excused himself to talk to other guests. Julian handed Gabrielle a glass of wine. Are you having fun? He asked. More than I expected. Your employees seem to really like working for you. I try to treat people well. Pay fairly, respect their time, acknowledge their work. It's not complicated. It's rarer than you think. They stood together watching the party. Sophia was on the dance floor with Amara and Aisha, who'd been invited as Sophia's guests. The 3 girls spun and jumped to the music, completely unself-conscious. They're happy, Julian observed. They are. For the first time in a long time. What about you? Are you happy? Gabrielle considered the question. 2 months ago, she'd been dying on her kitchen floor, out of options and out of hope. Now she had a job she enjoyed, a safe home, healthy daughters, and, what? She looked at Julian, at his kind eyes and genuine smile. What was this feeling growing between them? Yes, she said finally. I think I am happy. It's strange. I almost forgot what that felt like. You deserve to be happy, Gabrielle. So do you. The music shifted to something slower. Julian extended his hand. Dance with me? She hesitated only a moment before taking his hand. They moved onto the floor, finding a rhythm together. His hand on her waist felt natural, right? She could feel his heartbeat, smell his cologne, see the way he looked at her. I'm glad you came into my life, Julian said quietly. You and the girls. You've changed everything. You saved us. You know that, right? We would have died. Or ended up on the streets. You saved us. And you reminded me what it means to live. I'd call that even. They danced through 2 songs before the girls dragged them apart, demanding Julian dance with Sophia and Gabrielle dance with the twins. The evening ended with laughter and tired children, with promises to do this again next year, with a sense that life was finally moving in the right direction. On the drive home, Sophia fell asleep on Gabrielle's shoulder. Julian glanced over, smiling at the sight. She trusts you, he said. Completely. I trust her too. All of you. And she did. Somewhere along the way, trust had replaced fear. Hope had replaced despair. This strange, unexpected arrangement had become home. 3 months into her job, Gabrielle knew Julian's schedule better than her own. She knew he took his coffee black at 6 a.m., that he had a standing call with Tokyo every Monday at 7, that he always ate lunch at his desk and forgot dinner unless someone reminded him. She knew he was left-handed, that he read mysteries before bed, that he sang off-key in the shower. She tried not to think about why she knew these things. Tried not to acknowledge the flutter in her stomach when he walked into a room or the way her day felt incomplete if she didn't see him. Julian was equally aware of Gabrielle's patterns. How she always woke before dawn to have quiet time with coffee. How she hummed while she worked. How she twisted her hair when she was concentrating. How her whole face lit up when she laughed. How beautiful she was in morning sunlight. He tried not to think about it. She worked for him. She depended on him. Any feelings he had were inappropriate, couldn't be acted on. He'd built walls around his heart after his wife died. Those walls were supposed to protect him from this exact situation. But walls crumble. Slowly, without anyone noticing, until one day they're just gone. It happened on a Tuesday. Julian was leaving for a 3-day business trip to Seattle. His assistant had gotten the dates wrong and everything was a mess. Gabrielle sorted it out in an hour, rebooked his flight, rearranged his meetings, packed his bag with everything he needed. You're a miracle worker, he said as she handed him the updated itinerary. I'm just doing my job. You do it exceptionally well. Their eyes met. Held. Something shifted in the air between them. Sophia's voice broke the moment. Dad. You're going to miss your flight. Julian left. The house felt strangely empty without him. Gabrielle told herself she was being ridiculous. He'd been gone on business trips before. But this time felt different. This time she missed him. He called that night to say goodnight to Sophia. After, he asked to speak to Gabrielle. How did everything go today? He asked. Fine. Everything's under control. I know. You always have everything under control. Pause. I miss being there. The house misses you too. Another pause, longer this time. Gabrielle? Yes. Never mind. I'll be home Friday. Good night. The second day, a pipe burst in the main house. Gabrielle handled the plumber, the cleanup, the insurance claim. She texted Julian updates, received grateful responses. That evening, he video called from his hotel room. I heard about the pipe. Thank you for handling it. That's what you pay me for. I pay you to manage the household, not to perform miracles. That pipe should have flooded the entire first floor. Somehow you contained it to one bathroom. I'm just very persuasive with plumbers. He laughed. God, she loved his laugh. Stop it, she told herself. Stop having these thoughts. Julian, can I ask you something? Anything. Why did you really hire me? And please don't say it's because you needed a household manager. You could have hired anyone. Someone with more experience, better credentials. Why me? Julian was quiet for a long moment. Honest answer? Please. Because when I saw you in that hospital bed, fighting so hard to survive, refusing to give up even when you had every reason to, I saw strength I haven't seen in anyone. And I thought, this woman has been knocked down by life and she keeps getting up. If I could give her a hand up, maybe she'd soar. I wanted to see that. I wanted to be part of that. Gabrielle felt tears prick her eyes. That's the kindest thing anyone's ever said to me. It's the truth. You're remarkable, Gabrielle. I hope you know that. After they hung up, Gabrielle sat in the quiet guest house, her heart racing. This was dangerous territory. She was falling for her boss, for the man who'd saved her life, who held all the power in their relationship. Nothing good could come from this. But the heart doesn't listen to logic. Julian returned Friday evening. Gabrielle heard his car on the gravel drive and told herself not to run to the door like some character in a movie. She stayed in the kitchen organizing the pantry. You found her there. I'm back. She turned, and the sight of him made her breath catch. 3 days apart had felt like 3 years. Welcome home. How was the trip? Successful. Exhausting. I'm glad to be back. Sophia missed you. She's at a friend's house for a sleepover. I can call her back if you want. No, let her enjoy herself. Where are the twins? Same sleepover. The girls are all at Emma Rodriguez's house. Her mother invited them for a movie night. So we're alone? Yes. The word hung in the air between them. They were alone. Completely alone. No children to chaperone, no staff around, just the two of them in a quiet house at twilight. I should make dinner, Gabrielle said, not moving. Let me help. They cooked together something simple. Pasta, salad, bread. They moved around each other in the kitchen with practiced ease, a dance they'd perfected without realizing it. He chopped vegetables while she boiled water. She set the table while he made the salad. They ate at the small kitchen table, talking about his trip, her week, everything and nothing. The conversation flowed like it always did, natural and easy. But underneath ran a current of something else, something neither of them could name but both could feel. After dinner they washed dishes together. Gabrielle handed him a plate to dry. Their fingers touched. Neither moved away. Gabrielle, Julian said quietly. Don't. She set down the plate. Whatever you're about to say, don't. Please. Why not? Because I work for you. Because you have all the power here. Because if this goes wrong, I lose everything. My job, my home, my daughter's stability. I can't risk that. You think I have all the power? Julian turned to face her fully. Gabrielle, you have no idea. You walk into a room and I forget what I was doing. You smile and my whole day gets better. You're the first person I want to talk to in the morning and the last person I think about at night. If anyone has power here, it's you. Julian. I know this is complicated. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this is a terrible idea. But I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop wanting to be near you. And I think maybe you feel the same way. Gabrielle closed her eyes. Of course I feel the same way. How could I not? You're kind and funny and brilliant. You saved my life. You gave me and my daughters a future. You're... She opened her eyes. You're everything. And that's exactly the problem. Why is that a problem? Because I don't know if what I feel is real or just gratitude. Because you're my employer and that makes the power dynamic complicated. Because if we do this and it doesn't work out, where does that leave me? Leave us? Julian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. He cupped her face gently. What if it does work out? What if we're both feeling something real? Do we ignore that just because it's complicated? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. Then let's take it slow. No pressure. No expectations. We just see what happens. And if it doesn't work, we figure it out like adults. Your job is secure either way. I promise. Gabrielle leaned into his touch, letting herself feel it fully for the first time. This is scary. I know. But maybe it's worth being scared for. He leaned in slowly. She met him halfway. Their lips touched, soft and tentative, a question more than a statement. The kiss deepened, becoming something more certain. Gabrielle felt like she was falling, but this time someone was there to catch her. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. We should probably talk about this, Julian said. Probably. Set boundaries. Figure out how to do this right. Definitely. But maybe not tonight? No. Not tonight. They kissed again, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, Gabrielle let herself hope for something more than just survival. She let herself want something for herself, not just for her daughters. She let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved this happiness. Tomorrow they could worry about complications. Tonight, they would just be two people who'd found each other in the darkness and decided to step into the light together. Julian's business partner, Richard Chin, noticed the change immediately. Monday morning, during their standing meeting, Julian seemed distracted. He smiled at his phone. He rescheduled a conference call to be home for dinner. He left the office at 5 o'clock sharp, something he hadn't done in 3 years. You're different, Richard said bluntly. What's going on? Nothing. I'm just trying to maintain better work-life balance. Since when? You practically lived at the office before. Julian set down his pen. I realized I was missing too much of Sophia's life. I'm trying to be more present. This doesn't have anything to do with your new household manager, does it? The question hung in the air. Julian kept his expression neutral. What makes you say that? Come on, Julian. I'm your best friend. I know you. You've been different since she started working for you. Happier. More engaged. And now you're rushing home every night. It doesn't take a genius to connect the dots. It's complicated. I'm sure it is. She works for you. That makes it very complicated. We're taking it slow. Being careful. Richard leaned forward. Are you sure about this? I mean, really sure? Because from the outside, it looks like she showed up in your life at her lowest point, completely dependent on you, and now you're in a relationship. That's concerning. What are you saying? I'm saying that the power dynamic here is really skewed. She needed help desperately. You provided it. Now she works for you and lives on your property. How much choice does she really have if you express interest? Can she really say no without risking everything? Julian felt anger flash through him. You think I'm taking advantage of her? I think the situation is problematic whether you intend it to be or not. And I think you need to be very careful about how you proceed. For both your sakes. The conversation bothered Julian for the rest of the day. Was Richard right? Had he put Gabrielle in an impossible position? She said she had feelings for him, but how much of that was genuine and how much was obligation? He arrived home to find Gabrielle in the main house kitchen, preparing dinner for the children. She smiled when she saw him, the same warm smile that made his heart skip. How was your day? She asked. Fine. Richard asked about us. Her smile faded. What did you tell him? The truth. That we're seeing where this goes. What did he say? Julian hesitated. He's concerned about the power dynamic. About whether you really have a choice in this situation. Gabrielle set down the wooden spoon she'd been holding. Do you think that's true? Do you think I'm with you because I feel obligated? I don't know. How can either of us know for sure? So what are you saying? That we should stop this before it goes any further? I'm saying maybe Richard has a point. Maybe we moved too fast. Maybe we need to step back and think about this more carefully. The hurt in Gabrielle's eyes cut through him. Right. Of course. I understand. Gabrielle? No, you're right. This was a mistake. Let's just forget it happened and go back to being employer and employee. That's simpler for everyone. She turned back to the stove, her shoulders tense. Julian wanted to reach for her, to take back his words, to explain that he was just scared and overthinking everything. But the damage was done. Meanwhile, the household staff were having their own discussions. Thomas mentioned to Rosa that Mr. Julian seemed awfully friendly with Mrs. Morrison. Rosa defended them, but Claire, the chef, was more cynical. It's always the same story, Claire said. Rich man helps desperate woman, woman feels grateful, rich man takes advantage. I've seen it a dozen times. That's not what's happening here, Rosa insisted. Are you sure? He pays her salary, provides her housing, has complete control over her life. How is she supposed to say no if he wants more? You don't know what you're talking about. I know what I've seen. And this won't end well for her. It never does. The gossip spread. Other staff members weighed in. Some defended Julian and Gabrielle. Others saw it as inappropriate at best, exploitative at worst. By the end of the week, everyone on the property had an opinion. Gabrielle felt the change in atmosphere. The way people looked at her, whispered when she walked by. She heard fragments of conversations. Taking advantage. Gold digger. Using him. She threw herself into work, avoiding Julian except when absolutely necessary. The easy warmth between them vanished, replaced by stiff professionalism. Sophia noticed and asked Gabrielle if she was mad at her dad. Of course not, sweetie. We're both just busy. But the twins noticed too. Is Mr. Julian okay? Mara asked. He seems sad. He's fine. Just work stress. Gabrielle started looking at job listings online. Maybe she should leave before this got worse. Maybe she should take the twins and find somewhere else to live, somewhere where things weren't so complicated. She had money saved now, a good reference. She could start over. But the thought of leaving made her chest ache. This place had become home. These people had become family. And Julian. Julian was the first man she'd let herself care about since her husband died. The first person who saw her as more than just a struggling single mother. He saw her strength, her capability, her worth. Or did he? Maybe Richard was right. Maybe this whole thing was just Julian's savior complex and her desperate gratitude. Maybe there was nothing real here at all. Friday evening, Julian asked to speak with her privately. They met in the main house study, the door closed. The formal setting made Gabrielle's heart sink. "I've been thinking about everything," Julian began. "About what Richard said, about what people are saying. And I think we need to address this head-on. Okay? I need you to know that your job is secure no matter what happens between us personally. If you want to continue exploring this relationship, we can. If you want to end it, we can do that too. Either way, you and the twins have a place here for as long as you want. That doesn't change. That's very generous, but it doesn't solve the fundamental problem, does it? People will always question my motives. They'll always wonder if I'm using you or if you're taking advantage of me. And maybe they're right to wonder. I don't believe that. Don't you? You had doubts. That's why we had this conversation in the first place." Julian ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. "I had doubts because I care about you. Because I don't want to hurt you or put you in a position where you feel obligated. And I appreciate that. But the truth is, we can't escape the reality of our situation. You have money and power. I have neither. That imbalance will always be there, coloring everything. So what do we do?" Gabrielle looked at this man who'd changed her life. She thought about the past few months, about the happiness she'd felt, about the connection they'd built. She thought about her daughters, safe and thriving. She thought about the risk of losing all of it. "I think," she said slowly, "we need to be honest about what we both want. Not what we think we should want or what other people think. What we actually want." "I want you," Julian said simply. "I want us to have a chance. A real chance, not hindered by doubts or guilt or what other people think. I want that too. But I'm scared. Not just of losing my job or my home, though those things terrify me. I'm scared of trusting this feeling, of believing it's real, and then finding out it was just circumstances pushing us together. How do we know if it's real if we don't give it a chance? I don't know. But I think we need to be very careful. Very intentional. We need to set clear boundaries and communicate constantly. And we need to accept that people will judge us no matter what we do." Julian crossed the room to her. "I can live with people judging us. Can you?" Gabrielle thought about it. Thought about the whispers and the looks and the assumptions. Then she thought about Julian's smile, about the way he made her feel seen and valued, about the life they could build together if they were brave enough to try. "Yes," she said. "I can live with it. As long as I know what we have is real." "It's real," Julian said, taking her hands. "At least for me it's absolutely real. For me too." They stood together in the quiet study, holding hands, choosing each other despite the complications. It wasn't a perfect solution. There would still be gossip, still be doubts, still be challenges ahead. But they were facing it together, with honesty and intention. And maybe that was enough. The next few weeks were careful and deliberate. Julian and Gabrielle agreed to keep their relationship private while they figured things out. No public displays of affection, no dramatic changes to their routine. Just quiet moments stolen between the demands of daily life. They had dinner together most evenings, all 5 of them around the table like a real family. After the children went to bed, Julian and Gabrielle would sit on the porch or in the study talking for hours. They shared stories about their marriages, their grief, their dreams for the future. "I loved my wife," Julian said one evening. "I want you to know that. What I feel for you doesn't diminish what I had with her. I understand. I love Terrence too. He was a good man, a good father. But he's gone. And I'm still here. We're both still here. Do you think they'd want us to be happy? To find love again? I think they'd want us to live. Really live, not just survive." Julian pulled her close. "Then let's live." But living openly proved complicated. Gabrielle overheard more gossip from the staff. Claire, the chef, made pointed comments about women who land on their feet. Thomas remained neutral but clearly uncomfortable. Only Rosa fully supported them. "Love is love," Rosa said firmly when Gabrielle expressed her concerns. "Mr. Julian is a good man. You're a good woman. The rest is nobody's business. People think I'm taking advantage of him. Let them think what they want. You know the truth. He knows the truth. That's what matters." Julian's mother, Helen, visited again in early April. She took one look at her son and Gabrielle together and smiled knowingly. "So it's finally happened," she said over tea. "What's happened?" Julian asked innocently. "Don't play dumb. You're in love with her. Anyone with eyes can see it." Gabrielle blushed. "Mrs. Torres. Please call me Helen. And don't be embarrassed. I'm thrilled. My son has been alone too long. You've brought light back into his life. Some people don't see it that way. Some people are idiots. Ignore them. It's not that simple. The power dynamic, the circumstances of how we met. It's all complicated. Helen set down her teacup. Let me tell you something about complicated relationships. I fell in love with Julian's father when I was his secretary. Everyone said I was a gold digger, that he was my meal ticket. We were married for 40 years before he died. He was the love of my life and I was his. People can think whatever they want. It doesn't change what's real. You were his secretary? For 3 years before he finally got the courage to ask me out. Best decision he ever made, he used to say. She smiled at the memory. My point is, every relationship has complications. Every love story has obstacles. What matters is whether you're willing to fight for it. I am, Gabrielle said. I just want to make sure we're doing this right. That I'm not taking advantage of his kindness. The fact that you worry about that proves you're not. A manipulator wouldn't care. You clearly do. After Helen left, Julian found Gabrielle in the garden. She was sitting on a bench watching the twins and Sophia play. My mother likes you, he said, sitting beside her. I like her too. She told me about how she and your father met. The secretary story? She loves telling that one. It made me feel better about our situation, knowing we're not the only people to navigate something like this. Julian took her hand. We're going to be okay. I know it feels uncertain right now, but I believe in us. Do you? Gabrielle turned to him. Yes, I do. But I think we need to be more open about this. The secrecy is making things worse. People fill in gaps with their worst assumptions. What do you suggest? We tell the staff. Officially. We explain that we're in a relationship, that it developed naturally, that my job security isn't dependent on the relationship continuing. We make it clear and transparent. That might make things more awkward. Maybe. But at least people will know the truth instead of speculating. The next Monday they gathered the household staff for a meeting. Rosa, Thomas, and Claire sat in the main house living room, looking curious and slightly nervous. Julian stood with Gabrielle beside him. Thank you all for coming. We wanted to address something directly rather than let rumors continue. Gabrielle and I have developed a romantic relationship. We know this situation is unconventional, given that she works for me. We want to be completely transparent about how we're handling it. Gabrielle continued. First, my job is secure regardless of what happens in our personal relationship. Julian has made that clear in writing. Second, I have access to independent legal counsel if I ever feel pressured or uncomfortable. Third, we're committed to maintaining professionalism in work matters. We're not asking for your approval, Julian said. But we do want you to understand that this is a mutual, consensual relationship between equals. Gabrielle is not being taken advantage of. She's not taking advantage of me. We're two adults who care about each other and are trying to navigate a complicated situation as honestly as possible. There was silence. Then Rosa stood and hugged them both. I am happy for you. Very happy. Thomas nodded slowly. I appreciate you being upfront about it. That takes courage. Claire remained skeptical but said, as long as nobody's getting hurt, it's your business. The conversation didn't magically fix everything. There were still whispers, still sideways glances. But the transparency helped. People knew where things stood. And gradually the gossip faded as other topics took precedence. Richard Chin remained unconvinced. He and Julian had lunch the following week to discuss business, but Richard brought up the relationship again. I still think this is a bad idea, Richard said bluntly. I know you do. But it's my life, Richard. And I'm happy. Really happy. Doesn't that count for something? Of course it does. I just don't want to see you get hurt. Or worse, sued for harassment. That's not going to happen. Gabrielle has her own lawyer reviewing everything. We're doing this right. I hope so. For both your sakes. Despite Richard's concerns, Julian felt more certain than ever. The decision to be open about the relationship had lifted a weight off his shoulders. No more hiding, no more pretending. They were together and the world would just have to deal with it. One evening after the children were asleep, Julian and Gabrielle sat on the porch under the stars. Do you regret this? He asked. Any of it? Not even a little bit. Do you? No. You're the best thing that's happened to me in years. Even with all the complications? Especially with all the complications. They prove this is real. If it were easy, it might not be worth fighting for. Gabrielle leaned her head on his shoulder. Your mother said something similar. That every love story has obstacles. My mother is a wise woman. She also said her biggest regret was waiting so long to be with your father. That they wasted 3 years being professional when they could have been happy. Julian turned to look at her. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we've been too cautious. Maybe we've let other people's opinions matter too much. We know what this is. We know it's real. So why are we still holding back? What do you want to do differently? I want to stop treating this like it might end tomorrow. I want to plan for a future. Together. Julian's heart swelled. I want that too. More than anything. They kissed under the stars, and for the first time, it felt like the beginning of something permanent rather than something fragile that might break. They'd been honest with themselves, with each other, with the world. Now they could finally just be together. All the doubts, all the concerns, all the outside voices faded away. What remained was simple and true: they loved each other. And that was enough. 6 months after their first kiss, Julian and Gabrielle settled into a rhythm that felt natural and right. The twins and Sophia were inseparable, calling themselves the Three Musketeers. They had sleepovers in the main house, built elaborate forts in the yard, and put on performances that required everyone to stop what they were doing and watch. Gabrielle continued managing the household with impressive efficiency. She'd streamlined every system, improved staff morale, and even helped Julian's company by applying her organizational skills to some of his business processes. Richard Chin had reluctantly admitted she was gifted at what she did. "I was wrong about her," Richard said during a golf game with Julian. "She's not using you. If anything, you got the better end of this deal. She's brilliant." "I know," Julian said, unable to hide his smile. "You're really happy. I haven't seen you like this since before. Well, before. I'm happy. Happier than I thought I could be again." "Then I'm happy for you. Both of you." Julian's relationship with Sophia deepened too. With Gabrielle's encouragement, he'd cut back on work travel and made family time a priority. They had regular game nights, took weekend trips, and created traditions the children loved. Sophia blossomed with the stability and attention. One afternoon, Sophia asked Gabrielle a question that changed everything. "Could you be my mom? Not replacing my real mom, but like an extra mom." Gabrielle's heart clenched. "Oh, sweetheart. I would be honored to be part of your life in any way you want me to be." "Good. 'Cause I love you. And I love Amara and Aisha. We're a family now, right?" "Yes. We're a family." That evening, Gabrielle told Julian about the conversation. He pulled her close, emotion in his voice. "She's never asked that of anyone. Not in 3 years. You've given her something I couldn't. A complete family again. You've given my daughters the same thing. A father figure, stability, joy. We've given that to each other." Spring turned to summer. The property burst with life and color. Gabrielle started taking online classes toward finishing her degree. Julian supported the decision completely, adjusting the household schedule so she had time to study. "You wanted to be a teacher," he reminded her. "That dream doesn't have to be dead. I have a job I love. You can have both. Teaching part-time, managing the household, having a life that's entirely yours. You don't have to choose." His faith in her was unwavering. It made Gabrielle believe things about herself she'd stopped believing years ago. That she was capable. That she was smart. That she deserved good things. Helen Torres visited regularly, becoming a grandmother figure to all 3 girls. She taught them to bake, told them stories about Julian's childhood, and showered them with the kind of love that only grandmothers can give. "You've made my son whole again," Helen told Gabrielle during one visit. "I was so worried about him after Maria died. He shut down, stopped living. But look at him now. He laughs. He plays with the children. He's present. That's because of you. It's because of all of us. We healed each other. Maybe. But you started it. You let him help you. That took courage." The household staff had fully accepted the relationship. Rosa often made romantic dinners for Julian and Gabrielle, shooing them out of the kitchen so she could work her magic. Thomas maintained the grounds beautifully and always made sure there were fresh flowers for Gabrielle. Even Claire warmed up, making special treats for the children and teaching Gabrielle her best recipes. One evening in late July, Julian came home early from work with a strange expression on his face. He asked Gabrielle to walk with him to the garden, away from the house and the children. "Is everything okay?" she asked, concerned. "Everything is perfect. That's what I want to talk to you about." They sat on the bench where they'd had so many important conversations. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "6 months ago, I told you I wanted to plan for a future together," Julian began. "I meant it. Every word. And these past months have only made me more certain." "Julian. Let me finish. Please." He took her hands. "You walked into my life when I'd forgotten how to really live. You reminded me what it means to love, to hope, to build something real. You've given Sophia a complete family. You've made my house a home. And you've made me happier than I ever thought I could be again. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small blue box. Gabrielle's breath caught. I know we said we'd take things slow. I know there are still people who judge us. But I don't care about any of that anymore. I care about you. About us. About the life we're building together. He opened the box, revealing a beautiful but not ostentatious ring. Gabrielle Morrison, will you marry me? Tears streamed down Gabrielle's face. 6 months ago, she'd been dying on her kitchen floor with no hope and no future. Now she was sitting in a garden with a man who loved her, who'd shown her what true partnership looked like, who wanted to spend his life with her. Yes, she said without hesitation. Yes, absolutely yes. Julian slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her. In the distance they heard squealing. All 3 girls had been watching from the house window and now they came running. Does this mean you're getting married? Sophia shouted. Yes. Does this mean we're really sisters? Amara asked Aisha and Sophia. We're already sisters, Sophia said firmly. This just makes it official. The girls danced around them, celebrating with the pure joy only children can express. Julian and Gabrielle held each other, watching their daughters, marveling at how life could change so completely in such a short time. That night, after the children finally went to bed, still buzzing with excitement about the wedding, Julian and Gabrielle sat on the porch. Thank you, Gabrielle said quietly. For what? For not giving up on me. For seeing me as more than just someone who needed help. For loving me despite all the complications. Thank you for letting me in. For trusting me. For building this life with me. I was so scared when we met. Scared to accept help, scared to trust anyone, scared to hope for anything better. But you taught me that accepting help isn't weakness. It's strength. You taught me that it's never too late for a second chance at happiness. That love can find you even when you're not looking for it. They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, watching the stars emerge. Somewhere in the house, their daughters slept peacefully. The household staff had already started planning an engagement party. Helen was probably already shopping for a mother-of-the-groom outfit. Life was good. Better than good. It was full and rich and exactly what both of them needed. Should we set a date? Gabrielle asked. Whenever you want. Though I'll warn you, Sophia will want to be heavily involved in the planning. As will my girls. I'm envisioning a lot of opinions about dresses and flowers. I don't care about any of that. I just want to marry you. Then let's not wait too long. We've wasted enough time being cautious. 3 months. 3 months is perfect. They kissed under the stars, engaged, in love, and finally certain that they were exactly where they were supposed to be. All the struggles that brought them together, all the complications they'd navigated, all the doubts they'd overcome. It had all led to this moment. And it was worth every difficult step. The wedding took place on a perfect October morning, exactly 1 year after Amara and Aisha had run crying to a stranger in a parking lot. Gabrielle insisted on keeping it simple. Close friends, household staff, a few business associates. No elaborate production, just genuine celebration. They held the ceremony in the garden where Julian had proposed. White chairs sat in rows on the lawn. Flowers bloomed everywhere, a mix of autumn colors that Rosa and Thomas had carefully cultivated. A simple wooden arch stood at the front, decorated with ribbons and more flowers. Gabrielle wore a cream-colored dress that Helen had helped her pick out. Simple, elegant, beautiful. Amara and Aisha wore matching burgundy dresses and couldn't stop twirling. Sophia wore the same and carried a basket of flower petals, taking her role as flower girl very seriously. Julian wore a navy suit and looked impossibly handsome. He stood under the arch with Richard Chin as his best man, watching the path where Gabrielle would appear. When the music started, Julian's breath caught. Gabrielle walked toward him with her daughters on either side, since she had no father to give her away. Instead, her daughters walked with her into this new chapter. It felt perfect. The ceremony was brief but meaningful. They'd written their own vows. Gabrielle went first, her voice steady despite the emotions swirling through her. Julian, 1 year ago I'd given up hope. I thought I'd reached the end of my rope, that I had nothing left to give. Then you appeared, a stranger who decided to help for no other reason than because you could. You gave me back my life. But more than that, you taught me how to live again, how to trust again, how to love again. You saw strength in me when I couldn't see it myself. You gave my daughters a father and gave me a partner. I promise to stand beside you, to love you, to build this life with you for as long as we both live. Julian's turn. Gabrielle, when I met you, I was functioning but not living. Going through the motions but not feeling anything. Then you came into my world and suddenly everything had color again. Your strength inspired me. Your determination amazed me. Your love healed me. You gave Sophia a complete family. You made our house a home. You reminded me that it's okay to be happy, to hope, to love again. I promise to honor that gift every day. To be your partner, your support, your love. I promise to never stop seeing you for the remarkable woman you are. The officiant pronounced them married. Julian kissed Gabrielle as their daughters cheered. The small crowd applauded. Helen wiped tears. Richard smiled despite his earlier doubts. Rosa and Thomas looked proud. The reception was held in a tent on the lawn. Claire had outdone herself with the food. There was music, dancing, laughter. The three girls ran wild with joy, already plotting which bedroom would be whose once they all officially moved into the main house together. During the dinner, Richard Chin stood to give a toast. I'll be honest, when Julian first told me about Gabrielle, I was skeptical. The circumstances seemed too convenient, too complicated. I worried about my friend getting hurt. But I was wrong. Watching them together these past months, seeing how they support each other, how they built something real and strong, I realized I was looking at this all wrong. Sometimes life puts people together in unconventional ways. What matters isn't how they met, but what they build together. And what these two have built is remarkable. To Julian and Gabrielle. To Julian and Gabrielle, everyone echoed. Helen spoke next, her voice warm with emotion. I watched my son shut down after losing his first wife. I worried he'd never open his heart again. Gabrielle, you didn't just open his heart. You reminded him how to use it. You brought joy back to his life and gave my granddaughter the family she needed. Thank you. And welcome to our family, officially. As the sun set and the party continued, Julian and Gabrielle stole a moment alone. They walked to the same bench in the garden where so much had happened between them. How are you feeling, Mrs. Torres? Julian asked. Strange. Good. Overwhelmed in the best way. She looked at her ring, still getting used to seeing it there. A year ago I was dying. Actually dying. And now I'm here, married to an incredible man with healthy, happy daughters and a whole new life. It doesn't seem real. It's real. We're real. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't been in that parking lot? If you'd left 5 minutes earlier or taken a different route? All the time. But you can't think about it too much or you'll drive yourself crazy. What matters is I was there. And you let me help. That took courage. Want to know what happens after their first year of marriage? Are you rooting for this beautiful family? Subscribe to our channel and comment below what you think their biggest challenge will be. Your support means everything. I was terrified. Every instinct told me not to trust it, not to accept help from a stranger. But something about your eyes. Sophia was right that first day. You have kind eyes. I saw that and decided to take a chance. Best decision you ever made? Second best. The best decision was saying yes when you proposed. They sat together watching their reception continue without them. The tent glowed with warm light. Their daughters danced with Helen. Rosa served cake. Thomas told stories that made everyone laugh. It was perfect. What do you think the future holds? Gabrielle asked. Honestly? I have no idea. But I know we'll face it together. The four of us, plus whoever else joins our family along the way. Whoever else? Julian grinned. I'm just saying 3 kids is an odd number. Might need to even it out. Gabrielle laughed. Let's survive the first year of marriage before we start planning expansions. Deal. They rejoined the party as the music shifted to something slow. Julian led Gabrielle to the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. As they swayed together, Gabrielle thought about the journey that had brought them here. She thought about the morning she'd collapsed, certain her daughters would end up alone and scared. She thought about the stranger who'd stopped to help. She thought about the hospital, the recovery, the job offer, the slow building of trust and then love. She thought about Terrence, her first husband, and knew he'd approve. He'd want her to be happy, to give their daughters a good life. This was a good life. Better than she'd dared to hope for. Julian pulled her closer. What are you thinking about? How lucky I am. How lucky we all are. Luck had nothing to do with it. We chose this. Every day we choose each other. That's not luck. That's love. The song ended but they kept dancing. Around them their family and friends celebrated. Above them stars began appearing in the darkening sky. Before them stretched a future full of promise and possibility. Gabrielle Morrison Torres had learned the hardest lesson of her life. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is accept help when it's offered. That letting someone catch you when you fall isn't weakness but wisdom. That love can find you even in your darkest moment and light the way forward. She'd learned that second chances are real. that families can be built, not just born. That hope is always worth holding on to, even when everything seems impossible. Most importantly, she'd learned that happiness isn't something you have to earn or deserve. It's something you accept with gratitude when it appears, something you nurture and protect, something you share with the people you love. As the reception wound down and the girls started yawning, Julian and Gabrielle gathered their children. Tomorrow they'd leave for a short honeymoon, just the two of them. Helen would watch the girls. But tonight they wanted to be all together. They walked back to the main house, their daughters between them, tired and happy. Sophia held Julian's hand. Amara held Gabrielle's. Aisha walked between her mother and her new father, holding both their hands. "Are we really a family now?" Aisha asked for the 100th time. "We've been a family for a while now," Julian said. "Today just made it official." "Good," Sophia said. "Because I really like having sisters." "We really like having you too," Amara replied. Inside the house they tucked the girls into bed. Sophia had insisted they all sleep in the same room for the wedding night, so sleeping bags covered the floor of her bedroom. The three girls talked and giggled until exhaustion finally claimed them. Julian and Gabrielle stood in the doorway watching them sleep. "This is everything I never knew I wanted," Julian whispered. "Me too." They went to their own room, the master bedroom that Gabrielle had moved into a month ago. Tomorrow it would just be normal, their everyday life. But tonight felt special. The first night of forever. As Gabrielle got ready for bed, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. She looked different than she had a year ago. Healthier, obviously. But more than that. She looked happy. Truly deeply happy. Julian came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking?" "That I'm grateful. For everything. For you showing up when you did. For your kindness. For your patience. For loving me and my daughters. For giving us this life. I'm grateful too. For you letting me in. For building this with me. For being brave enough to accept help when you needed it. I almost didn't, you know. That day in the hospital, when you offered to pay for everything, every instinct told me to refuse. Pride, fear, shame. I almost let those things destroy the best thing that ever happened to me. But you didn't. No. I chose hope instead. And look where it led." They climbed into bed, exhausted but content. Outside, the property was quiet. The tent would be taken down tomorrow. The chairs would be put away. Life would return to its normal rhythm. But everything was different now. Better. Complete. Julian pulled Gabrielle close. "I love you, Mrs. Torres." "I love you too, Mr. Torres." They fell asleep holding each other, while down the hall their daughters slept peacefully, safe and loved and home. This was their happy ending. But more than that, it was their happy beginning. The start of a life built on kindness, hope and love. The three things that had always been there, waiting to lead them to each other. And they would be enough to see them through whatever came next. Together they could handle anything. Forever had started today. And it looked absolutely beautiful,